Hi, and welcome to this session on an overview and what I'm going to cover in this series of recordings. It's going to cover looking at library search and getting the most out of using library search, particularly digital resources, given the current pandemic situation and access to physical resources being restricted. So we're going to focus on that. But I'm also going to talk about different search tips and tricks that you can use when you're doing some searches across the different resources, and also things to think about when you're planning your search strategies. We'll look at finding material to support subject-specific research around any kind of projects that you might be working on, and we'll also look at things like locating alternative sources, and I'm also going to touch on reference management as well. So as I said, this recording is going to be split into smaller sections to make it more manageable. The first part we're going to start off with will be to talk about the importance of using the library and why it's important to use the library. So you probably heard quite a lot of advice about, it's really important to make use of the resources that you have access to, particularly currently. But I just kind of wanted to sort of reiterate that message really. In terms of kind of resources that you come to across the internet, there are of course some good resources out there, and nobody's saying that we don't use the internet. Everybody uses Google for finding out information all the time. But sometimes the results that you get from those search engines won't always be reliable, and it means that you do have to do an extra kind of level of scrutinising the content to make sure you think it's actually credible. Whereas when you used library resources, they would have already been selected in terms of their academic rigour by the schools and centres, and obviously the university library as well. So they will have been checked for things like credibility, reliability, scholarly. So it will give you a lot more kind of benefits and a lot more kind of safeguards to know that the information that you're actually using is not going to be questioned in terms of the academic quality of it. But the most important reason really is that it's proven time and time again that students that use library resources, digital resources as well as physical resources, do quite often get better graduate outcomes, and this can be for a couple of reasons really. Firstly, as I've kind of already mentioned, you're going to be sort of assessed on the quality of your references and the resources that you've been referring to. So there'll be a level of judgment there. But also in terms of the more resources that you use, it will point you into the direction of other areas of research that you wouldn't necessarily have found through the internet. And it might pick up particular themes that you might not have been aware of, particular authors or people that write prolifically in that subject area. So it really does help you to develop your research skills as well. So the next couple of slides are just going to go over the actual access to the physical building at the moment. So obviously all of this could be subject to change depending on kind of how the pandemic develops over the coming kind of weeks and months. But at the moment currently we are open Monday to Friday from 8 till 9 o'clock and at weekends from 9 till 6 o'clock. You will need your Library Kent One card to enter the library and to use printers and to borrow and return books. And you can access the building, but just be aware that there is a limit to how many people can access, so at busy times you may have to queue before you can enter the building. We're obviously taking the situation very seriously, so we do have quite a number of different safety measures in place to help you if you do come in and access the physical building. So as I mentioned already, we are limiting access to how many people can enter or study in the library at one time. We're following the 2 metre social distancing rule, and there's also a one-way route around the library which is well signposted that you can follow, and there's also staff on hand to help you with that. Please do remember to take your Kent One card, because if you don't have your Kent One card we won't be able to allow you access into there. There's a hand sanitisers on entry. We ask that you wear a face covering. We have safe access to bookshelves, and we've increased the cleaning. Also, if you do decide to study at the social distance spaces around the library, then we do ask that you use the hand sanitisers and cleaning packs to clean down the equipment before you start working there, and also when you finish. And you'll also find screens at the welcome desk. So it will look a little bit different, but there is access there if you do need to go into the library for any reason. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm really going to focus on the digital library access here at the moment. So this is resources that are available to you 24/7 online, so you can access them anywhere. Just ensure that you log in via the University of Kent web pages and Library Search to get access. Don't kind of go directly to a particular website, because quite often it won't guide you in the right way. So please do make sure you always go in via the university web pages and Library Search. And we're going to have a little look at Library Search, and I'm going to do a few demos in a few moments just to give you an idea of the different ways that you can use it. So I wanted to start off the session by talking about the importance of thinking about your search strategies before you actually go off and start trying to find information and do some searching around your topic areas. So this slide kind of goes through a 5-step process that will hopefully help you to kind of systematically think about what you need to do to make sure you get the best results out of the resources you use. So number 1 is around sort of keywords. So this is really important. I can't really say this enough. It's really important that you spend a bit of time before you start doing any searching, thinking about what keywords might be useful to use, kind of identifying alternative ones, doing a bit of brainstorming around that, because quite often you might have a very clear idea of what keywords are going to work for your topic area, but quite soon you might find you come to a dead end and you run out of results. You haven't got enough results, and that's probably because you haven't thought either widely enough around your keywords, or you haven't thought about related terms. So it's really important to think about that at the beginning, and I'm going to share some other tips on how you can sort of crowdsource and think a bit more widely around different keywords as we go through the presentation. So once you've got your keywords, the next thing is obviously to choose your sources. So it's a bit like if you're doing some DIY at home, you've got to make sure you use the right tool for the right job. So we have hundreds of different resources here at the University of Kent, which is absolutely fantastic, but also sometimes a little bit overwhelming. So please make sure that if you're looking for journal articles, you select a resource that specialises in that type of content. It might be that you're looking for more kind of analytical data, so you might need to use something else that has kind of statistics involved within it. So you just need to make sure that you know which one does which, and I'm going to highlight some of those later on in some of the other clips around the different resources that I would recommend for psychology. So hopefully that will give you a good start, but please do kind of just remember that. And then once you've got that, you then need to obviously do your searching, and with the keywords that you might have thought about, it's really important to start thinking about combining those keywords and building up your search. And again, there's some different techniques that I'll show you how you can do that. Then when you get your search results back, you might want to think about refining those. You might find that you've got just far too many to sort of search and look through and read all the results that are available, some that may not be as relevant as you had hoped for. So it's always a bit of tweaking and changing the search results slightly. It might be refining the keywords you've used. It might be looking at the date ranges. You might have been too kind of generous with the date ranges you put in, and there might be a lot of material that's coming back that's quite out of date, that would have been superseded by more recent research. So that's a really important thing to think about, and there are other sort of measures that you can put on there to make sure that the results are much more specific. And then the last bit is around saving any kind of useful articles or documents. So documenting the results that you get back, making a note about where you found them from, what keywords you used to get to that point. All of these things will help you tremendously when you come to actually writing up your research, your project, and also help you with the referencing side of things, because if you've got a document or details of exactly what you've used, you won't have to waste time at the end going back retrospectively trying to remember which journal article that was published in, who was the authors, all of that type of information that you can quite easily lose track of. Okay, so kind of following on from that and around the keywords that I mentioned earlier on, you can do things like think of synonyms or antonyms, and it could be like narrower or broader terms. So for example, if you were doing a search around Britain, you might also want to include British, UK, United Kingdom, all the different ways that that kind of topic area may be described. In terms of refining your search down, I mentioned around dates, but there might be also things like location or demographics if you're doing kind of any research into a particular area of the population, for example. If your area is an area that you want to research which is kind of newer to you, then you might want to use some of our online reference sources for background. So it might help you to identify sort of key authors or important figures or themes in that particular area and just give you a good grounding before you go on to then do some further research. Okay, so I'm going to start off now just giving you an example of one of the things that you can do when you're thinking about crowdsourcing your keywords. So for example, say your topic area is on ageism. So you start off with your word ageism, and then you think about some of the other terms that you could think of. So you could think, okay, age discrimination, ageism, as we'd already mentioned, attitudes to ageism, stereotyped attitudes, gerontology, intergenerational relations, aging. So you can see from the initial keyword on ageism, you can actually, you know, with a bit of thinking and thinking about related terms, kind of defining what area you want to go in, you can actually build up that source or bank of keywords that you can then play around with and combine and try out different combinations and see how that changes your results. It will give you a lot more flexibility and hopefully a lot more resources to kind of use and have a look at, rather than if you've just gone with ageism as your kind of main keyword. Some other search tools and tricks. So when you go in to use lots of the different resources we have access to, quite a few of them will use this kind of search connectors, and they are or, and, or not, and what they help you to do is to combine your keywords together. So for example, a very basic sort of search here, so if you were going in and doing a search for hat or crown, the results you'd get back would be quite broad, because you'll get some results that are just talking about hats, some that are just talking about crowns, and then some that are talking about both. So it helps you to extend that out a little bit. If you wanted it to make more relevant, you can use and. So if I was to do a search for dress and ribbons, it will just bring back the results that are talking both about dress and ribbons, not just some talking about dresses or some talking about ribbons. So it helps you to refine it down if you're getting too many results. And then the other one is not. So that is another way of kind of excluding or cutting out search results. You have to be a bit careful with that one. You have to make sure you do know that you definitely want to exclude that element of search results before you start off, because obviously it does cut them out, but it can be quite helpful. So the example here is trousers, not shorts. So shorts may be related to trousers in terms of something you wear on your legs. So it could be that shorts will be coming back if you were doing a search for trousers, and you might find, okay, I definitely don't want to find anything about shorts. If you put in not shorts, it will just focus the search on the trousers. And you can use that for lots of different things, like, you know, if you're doing a search on a database that was quite international, and you might find there's lots of resources coming back from all over the place, and you just want to focus on the UK, you could put in a search and then put, say, not the US, you know, for example, and it would just make sure it focuses on that area. So that can be quite helpful. You need to come back as a phrase or a sentence. For example, you can put quotation marks around the beginning and the end of that phrase. So for example, if I was doing a search for study skills, I can put quotations at the end and the beginning, and then it will just bring back that phrase within my results rather than just study but without the skills. And the same with the graduate outcomes one. So again, it just helps you to make your search a bit more specific and helps with that refining process. And then, as I said, make sure you keep records of your sources. So as part of these clips, I am going to talk about RefWorks, which is one of the reference management tools that you can use and is available to you at University of Kent, but there are others as well. So we have things like Mendeley and Zotero, which are other reference management sources. And I would really kind of advise you to familiarise yourself with one of them and do get into the habit of using it, because it will help you to save a lot of time when it comes to doing your referencing. You can select, you know, the APA standard referencing style to help you format your references automatically within there. But if you decide that you don't want to use one of those, at the very least do kind of keep some sort of record of the things that you're using. So as I mentioned earlier, make a note of the source you're using, when you searched it, number of results you got back, any comments you want to make about it that might help you follow that up when you come to write up your project, to, you know, jog your memory about why you decided to include that type of thing. What were the keywords you used, so that you can remember what it was you got back, and maybe kind of links to the actual articles or sources that you used. Again, it will really make your work a lot easier. Reference management tools can be viewed a bit like a filing cabinet. So it might be that you're taking your sources from lots of different places, such as library search or different library databases that we're going to look at, and also web resources, things like Google Scholar. So it's really useful to set one up. In a few moments, I'm going to give you a demo of the reference management tools web pages that we've put together, and then give you an introduction how to set up one for RefWorks. But please do remember that you don't need to use RefWorks. You can choose either Mendeley and Zotero as another alternative. To set up your referencing management account, the best place to go to is our reference management tools web pages. So from the Psychology Library Resource Guide, there's a link to it from the homepage of Library Search and also from the University Library web pages. Select the tab Managing Your References, and then if you scroll down here, there's a link to our reference management tools web page. Okay, so this page will give you some more detail about all of the different ones that we sort of recommend. So the three main ones are RefWorks, Mendeley and Zotero. So it could be based on the operating system that you're using. Some work better with Mac, for example. It could be dependent on what you want to do with the actual documents that you store within the reference management tools, because some of them have a greater flexibility in terms of storage and tagging kind of keywords and making notes and that type of thing. So have a read through and sort of make a decision about which one would be the best one for you to have a look at. Today we're just going to start off using RefWorks, and that's the one I'm mainly going to show you. So I'm just going to click on the link there. And if you scroll down to the bit that says help and how to get started, there's a RefWorks login page, and it gives you kind of instructions on what you need to do. Okay, I already have a RefWorks account, so it's automatically logged me into mine. But if I just log out of that, just to show you how it works. So from this page, don't worry about putting in a username or password. Just go down to the section that says other institutions, and then type in University of Kent. Okay, and then click on the matching link. And then mine will log in now because I've already created an account, but yours will do a step-by-step process where you put in a few brief details about yourself, your name and your email address. Okay, so the way that RefWorks account works, as I said before, is that a little bit like a filing system for all your references. So you'll have one folder when you first start off, which is your last imported folder, and this is where all your references will land when you kind of import them into the system. So what I usually suggest is that you start off by setting up some different folders. It might be for different pieces of work that you're working on, it might be for different sections of a project that you're working on, but it will help you to manage your references a little bit easier and keep your last imported folder nice and clear, ready for when you get the new resources in. Okay, so it's simple as just clicking on new folder and then giving it a name. Okay, and then you can create that, and you can do that. You can go back and edit the name or delete things that you don't need any longer at any stage. Okay, and then you have set up your account ready to go. Now, in terms of getting references into RefWorks, in terms of books, unfortunately with Library Search there isn't a mechanism for directing any results that you find directly in Library Search. So for example, any of the books you can't actually import from Library Search into RefWorks. So what we suggest you do, there is a workaround, is that when you're in RefWorks, once you know the titles of the books that you've used already in your research, if you click on the search option and then go down to online catalogue or database, and then mine, I think, automatically does default to the British Library because I've changed that. So there are others in there, such as University of Kent. But as I said, because it's not compatible at the moment with the University of Kent Library Search, just choose the British Library. It's a deposit library, so it should have the bibliographic details of all of the books that you're likely to be using. So that's all you really need. It's just the reference, you know, the citation details. And then you can do a search. So let's do a search for social psychology. Okay, and then we'll just wait for the results to come back within here. So you'll get your results back, and then you identify the title that it was that you used, and then you can just click on the boxes next to it here. So I'll just say it's the top 2 that I used, and then click on the import button. And then you should get a link to view them in your last imported folder. So you've got them in your last imported folder. You can now select them again and then say, oh, actually, I want to put them directly into another folder that I've set up. So I'm just going to scroll down, find that one, and then add them into your folder. In terms of best practice, I tend to take them out of the last imported folder so I can keep that folder nice and clear, ready for the next lot I'm going to import in. And to do that, you just use the folder with the minus icon to take them out. If you use the one with the red cross, that deletes the actual whole reference, so that will delete it from wherever it is in your RefWorks account. So don't delete on that unless you definitely don't need it anymore. And then just click on that one, and then that will take them out of there. And then that's as simple as that, and then you're ready to go. The other thing to mention is that in Library Search you also can't export any of the articles that you find directly, but what you will do is go into the actual database where the articles are held, and then there is a way to export them from there, which I'll explore when I do the demos of the subject databases. Library Search is a really good starting point, and you're probably already familiar with Library Search, but I am going to give a quick demo just to show you some of the different tips and tricks and to make sure that you're aware of all the different areas. Library Search is great if you're looking for books, and probably more specifically at the moment electronic books. It is worth saying at this stage that unfortunately not all books that are published are available in electronic format, either because they haven't been produced for an academic platform, or they are just not available via the publisher. If you find it's a topic area that you can't find relevant resources for in terms of ebooks, please do feel free to come back to me, because it may be that I might be able to suggest alternative sources or help you edit your search slightly. Okay, so let's do a quick demo of using Library Search then to find books and ebooks. So as you would have seen from the demonstration, you can also use Library Search for looking for journal articles as well. But just to remind you that it won't give you access to every single journal that we subscribe to. So again, Library Search is a really great starting point, but it could be that there are different resources that you can access and different journal articles that you can access through different databases. So I'm going to go on to show you some of those recommended resources and which ones are the key ones I would recommend for your subject in order to get the best out of the resources that are available for you. There's also a link in this presentation slide to subject guides, and you'll find one there for psychology, so that will actually signpost you to the key resources that I'm going to talk about as part of this recording, but it will also be the fact that you can actually go back and access things whenever you need to. Okay, so the main kind of databases for psychology in terms of resources and journal articles that I would recommend are PsycInfo and PsycArticles, and then we also have Scopus and Cochrane. I'm not going to have time to go through and demo all of these resources today, but I'm just going to choose a couple to share with you that you can then investigate and maybe try the same sorts of techniques that we're going to have a look at within some of the resources that are on the slide. So the first subject-specific database we're going to have a look at is PsycInfo. There's also PsycArticles as well, but a lot of the content that's in PsycArticles will be in PsycInfo, as well as other kind of conference proceedings and other research. So it's a really good resource to have a look at. So the easiest way to find it is if you go to the Psychology Library Resource Guide, and then the section that says researching for assignments. If you scroll down here, there are some links to different databases and specialist resources, and there you'll see a link to PsycInfo. Okay, so PsycInfo takes you straight away into the advanced search. So this is when you'll see your different search boxes to put together your different terms. So here are the connectors that we talked about earlier on. So we've got the and, the or the not within there to put in your search terms and kind of play around with those within that. So what I'm going to start off by doing is doing a search now for so stereotype threat. So for this one, although you may think of it as a phrase, you don't need to use the quotation marks within PsycInfo. It already does that for you. And also you may have noticed that when I was typing there, some other terms came up. So sometimes it gives you some other useful things or other related terms that you might not have thought about, sort of similar to when we were looking in library search and you could look at the subjects that were indexed. So again, do have a look at those and see if any are useful. And then we'll do another search within here for offenders, okay, and then we'll click into that search box and then we can run a search. Now, just to say a few things about the selector field here. So at the moment it will just search across absolutely everything in terms of those keywords. So it will search for it within titles, it will search for it within the body of the text or within the references. So sometimes you might find that some of them may not be as relevant as you would like. I usually tend to keep my search selected without choosing anything to start off with, just to see what I get back. And then if I feel like I need to filter it further, I can then go back and change those fields. So we'll do that in a few moments. So let's just run a quick search here. Okay, and then we'll get results coming back within here. Okay, and then similarly, as we saw within some of the other library search tools, you'll see they'll have subjects that come up within here, so you can have a look to see what other things are coming up that you may want to include within that, if you think if it's relevant, if that in terms of the articles within there. But you can see within here we've got 5 results. We don't have a huge amount of results coming back. So what we can do is we can go back and we can edit our search again slightly. So we'll keep the stereotype threat and offenders, and then we'll put or, and then we can try if I try that again, prisoners, and then you can see you've got things that's saying like or inmates or criminals or offenders or incarcerated people. So different ways of describing the same sort of topic area, if you like. So that can increase the amount of results you're coming back, because the searches so far are just looking for offenders. They're not looking for the other ways of describing that particular term. So if I go for the broadest one and then I'll try the search again, and you can see now that I've got a huge amount more coming back within there. So I can scroll down and have a look. Some of them, again, you'll see there'll be a PDF there straight away, or there might be a link out to the full text, which means you just have to link out to a different database. If you see full text finder, that's usually what that means, but there will be access to the particular article that you can have a look at. If you're getting too many results back, don't forget to think about the timeline, because this is going back to 1685, so it's quite old, so you can update that. You can also click down to source types. If you just want to find academic journals, you can click on academic journals, and that will update the list of results that you're getting back. Again, that will reduce it slightly. They also have different ways of looking at things within here. So if you scroll down, you can see you've got different demographics that you can add on. So if you're looking at it in relation to gender, or if you're looking at it in relation to age or something like that, or if you're looking for things like tests and measures or methodologies within your projects, then you can break it down a little bit further to make it a bit more specific for you. And then the other thing that you can do is what I mentioned before about the selector field. So if you click on that drop down and you change it to example of let's find the right one. Let's say subjects. And then we can run the search again. And again, now that's gone down a little bit further as well. So there are different things that you can apply to it to have a look and find things that are much more specific to what you want to search for and explore. The other useful thing that you can do, obviously, is to start to send your journal articles through to the reference management tool of your choice. So earlier on when we were looking at RefWorks, I showed you how you could get your book titles by directly using RefWorks to search the online catalogue. Fortunately, there's not a way to send journal articles directly from Library Search, but if you go into the journal article itself in whatever database it is, so whether it's in PsycInfo or one of the other psychology databases, or it might be a slightly different subject database, there'll still be a similar methodology to do that. So all you need to do to start off with is over to the side, there's a little plus icon. So just by clicking on the plus icon, it will add a little folder. So if I click on a couple of those at the top, and then if I go to the top where it says folder, it will add these two within there. Then all I need to do is to select them and choose the export option. And then from here there's a list of different reference management tools that you can use. So if I choose the RefWorks one, click on save, and then that should prompt me through into my RefWorks account. If you get this message, don't go to the newer version of RefWorks. We are using the legacy version, so I'm just going to tick that and then click on the legacy option. And again, as before, I'm just going to log in via the university. Oops. Okay, and then I get the little import references icon, so I'm just going to click on my view last imported folder to see them there and select them and then put them into the quick drop down for the folder here and add them in there, and then just take them out of my last imported folder. So that's all done for you, and then you're ready to continue the process. Okay, so next resource we're going to have a look at is Cochrane Library. So to find this, if you go to the e-resources link from the homepage of Library Search and then just click on C, and then we just need to scroll down a little bit to find the Cochrane Library. So this is slightly different in terms of it's kind of more health related data, but in terms of information like systematic reviews and things like trials and medical research, it's another really great resource. It's a global resource as well, similarly to PsycInfo, so it's great for getting kind of different perspectives across different countries if you're doing those sorts of comparisons or thinking about that type of research. Okay, so we go straight in here and you can see there we've got a little link to the advanced search. And then we can start to try our searches. So this is a search that I've done previously, so I'm just going to clear that so I can show you how to set that up. Okay, so this search is going to be slightly different. So we're going to do a search for placebo effect. And then you can add different boxes. So again, you've got the same sorts of field options here that you can search across. So for example, you can search for it within the abstract, which means if it finds those keywords within the abstract is a summary of what the article or paper or research is about. So hopefully if it comes up within the abstract, then it should be of relevance to what you're looking for. And then you can just keep on adding in different terminology. So if we put placebo effect and physical exercise, and then we can add in another box there, and we could put an or. So let's put physical activity, and then we can put in another one and put and mood. Okay, so again, different things will come up, different suggestions will come up. So if there are things in there that you think are useful, like mood change, for example, you can select that, and then that will add to your search. Okay, and then in order to run the search, you just click on Run Search here. And then if we scroll down a little bit, we will see, first of all, we've got the reviews, 119 there that you can have a look at, and you'll have a little preview button that you can click on to get a bit more of a general idea of what the actual article or paper is talking about. But if you scroll along, you can see it does separate it out. So if you're just looking for trials around that topic area, you can click on the trials tab, and then that will just show you trials. And again, if there were other ones such as clinical answers or other reviews, you can click in there and have a look at that. So it's quite useful in terms of having a slightly different approach to how you do that. Then in terms of actually sending these articles into a reference management system, again, you can choose some of them. So if we click on that one there and that one there, and then we've got export selected citations. So again, you can choose the reference one that's available to you depending on what you're using. If you can't see your actual reference management here, it's best to do it as a RIS file and then download it, and then you can upload it directly from your computer into the reference management system as well. So it's as simple as that. And again, as I said, once you start doing these things for yourselves and you do need some help, then please do feel free to get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to sort of talk you through the process a bit more step by step. Google Scholar is another really useful resource that you can use, and I'm sure that most of you use it already. It's just worth noting though that there are a few other tips and tricks in terms of using Google Scholar that the next kind of video clip is going to take you through and give you some more guidance on. Before you start searching on Google Scholar, make sure that you change some preferences. The first one is to set it up so that you're affiliated as a University of Kent user. Go to the hamburger menu and then select Settings. From this option, choose Library Links, and then you just want to search for University of Kent. Then make sure you select the University of Kent option and save your settings. From here, when you carry out a search, it should automatically pick up any journal articles that we subscribe to and that you should have full text access to. So that should mean that you will avoid having to pay for things that you shouldn't have to pay for and getting stuck in login loops. I'll just do a quick demo to show you how that works. Okay, so you can see there that any that have the University of Kent link means that we actually already have it within our subscription range. Just by clicking on this link, you should automatically be linked to the page where you log in with the University of Kent credentials. And then select it from one of the relevant links. There are a couple of other things to note about the interface of Google Scholar, namely that you can do some filtering. It's not sophisticated as some of the other databases that we've already looked at, but you can do it via currency, for example, and by date range. That's quite important in terms of looking at up-to-date articles, because you'll notice that some of these may be quite old, so please do remember to do that. The other really useful thing that Google Scholar allows you to do is to check who else has cited these particular articles that you might be interested in. So in a similar way to when you go and look at journal articles, you may consult the reference list to see what research they've used. This is the kind of flip side of this. So this actually shows you the other articles that different people have gone on to write, maybe using the article that you're looking at as some inspiration or some research. So it may give you other avenues to explore. To do that, it's simply a case of just clicking on the cited by option, and then you'll see a list. And again, any that we have access to, you'll see a link to the University of Kent. This is another really good search technique, particularly if you're finding that you're not getting lots of relevant results back. Just take a look at the reference list or the cited by list to find further sources. In terms of exporting any useful references that you find into RefWorks, you can do this again via the hamburger menu, settings, and then if you scroll down slightly, you'll see a little option at the bottom that says Bibliography Manager. So click on the radio button, Show Links to Import Citations, and then I'm just going to choose from here RefWorks from the drop-down option and then Save. Now when I go back to my search, I will now have a little import into RefWorks under each of the different entries. So if I find any there that I've had a look at and I do want to use those, I will just click on the Import into RefWorks button. Choose the legacy option rather than the new version of RefWorks. And then if you're not already logged in, it will prompt you to log in again. So I'm just going to go to the other institutions as previously and search for University of Kent. And then it's a very similar process to how we've viewed before. So click on the View Last Imported folder and then just choose from the quick menu folder, look up which folder you want to put it into. And then once you've selected that, I tend, as I said before, just to remove it from this folder just to keep it nice and clear. Okay, in addition to the resources that we've looked at, there are also lots of other useful resources. So for example, we have a huge amount of multimedia resources, and again, the link here within the slide will take you to those pages. I'm just going to highlight Boxer Broadcast. So Boxer Broadcast is a resource that is available and it records all of UK digital channels, also radio channels as well. So when you go onto there, you can access previous content. So it might be that you want to search for things like documentaries, or there may have been things that have reported in news programmes or within Parliament or anything like that. So again, it's another really useful resource to actually find further information about and help you to understand a topic area a bit more broadly. Reference sources, so we have quite a few psychology web resources that I've put a link into here that you can access, and also newspapers as well. Quite often there may be things that are happening in the news that you want to give a bit of context or quote back in terms of what's actually happening at the moment, and again, they can be a really useful source. And then also theses and dissertations. So again, these are really great. So for finding out, you know, what research has already been carried out. It could be that there's already been some research on a similar sort of topic area, but they might be dealing a certain aspect that may be different to your research but kind of related, and quite often it's useful to have a look at the reference lists of those and the bibliographies, because there may be some really key sources there that would be useful for you to go and have a look at as well as part of your research. So it can really be a good tool to help you develop further skills and further resources. And then if you still need to find further resources, I'd like to give a bit of a plug for open access resources. I mean, these are really great for finding new authors, new voices from different perspectives. Quite often a lot of the journal articles that are published and the books that are published by people that are pretty established in academia already, which is great obviously, but sometimes you may want to, you know, do some research around a slightly different aspect, or you might want to kind of pick up some newer voices that are coming through within the field. So open access is a really great way of doing that. Other libraries, so obviously other libraries at the moment is very restrictive, so you may be able to find out what's actually available at other institutions, but you probably won't be able to go and visit them currently due to the pandemic. But it's also useful to know in terms of maybe kind of getting requests from other places that may be able to be supplied to you. And we have the document delivery, so that's kind of a last port of call really, and hopefully through the amount of resources that we've got available at Kent, you will be able to get what you need without making document delivery requests. But there is a link there to do that if you need to, and again, that's something you can come back and query if you need any help with. Okay, so just kind of following up with the referencing side of things. So as we've been going through and doing demonstrations of the different databases and different resources, I've kind of been pointing out how you can send those sources and references into your RefWorks account, or you may have chosen to use a different one, and that's absolutely fine as well. It'll be a very similar method. But now you've got to the stage where you probably want to incorporate those actually into your work, and Write Insight is a handy little tool that helps you to do that. So the following video will just give you some guidance on how to do that, and how to set that up with whichever word processing program that you use. And then just to point out another resource that we have available to you at the university, which is called Cite Them Right. So Cite Them Right, and again there is a link to it at the bottom of the slide. Cite Them Right is a really good tool for helping you actually work out how to reference something. So if it's a new resource that you haven't referenced before, a new type of resource, maybe it's a conference proceeding or something that you may not have generally referenced before, and you might not be exactly sure of the correct way to reference it, you can choose whatever the format of material is, and then when you go in there you have the option to choose your referencing style. So you can choose APA from the list, and then that will give you a demonstration of how to do that, and how you should lay it out, what it will look like. So it's really good just for checking your practice, because as I've mentioned previously, the reference management tools are great for doing a lot of the referencing for you, but they won't pick up on any mistakes that you've made. They will only kind of follow the format that the references have been inputted into the system in. So it's really good to understand exactly how they should look. So this is a really great tool to give you that foundation that you can then sort of just check back and make sure that it looks like it should look, and that you've understood that correctly. Okay, so just to go back and kind of oversee the key sorts of areas to use, direction of travel in terms of sources you should use. So remember to start off looking at library search, and you can use that for your ebooks and your articles. Then we've got your subject databases, so that's things like your PsycInfo, PsycArticles, Cochrane, etc. Subject guides, again, do take a look at the psychology subject guide. It's got my contact details on there that you can get in touch with if you do have questions that you need to follow up after this session. But you can also just find general information about different resources and which ones are great to use for psychology. And then we've got the more general library resources, so that's things like the newspapers and the theses and dissertations, then the other libraries, open access, then Internet Google Scholar, and then lastly document delivery. So that kind of gives you a sense of when you're searching kind of the places you should start with, and then how you should sort of kind of move up to make sure you're kind of accessing everything that you need to. Okay, and then there's just some final reminders about when you're doing your searching. So do refer to the help. That's always provided in all of the databases that you use, and that will just give you an idea of the types of techniques and tools that they use when you're carrying out the search. Always have a go at using the advanced search, because that will direct you to combining your keywords and kind of practicing building up your search techniques to make them much more specific to you. So always have a go at using that. Try to remember to set up search alerts, because they will keep you updated on new sources automatically. So it's again a really great way to save time. And then really importantly, always record what and where you have searched, and just be systematic about that, regardless of whether you go on to use a reference management tool or not. That will be a really good tip, in terms of making sure you know where everything is and you know how to get back to it. Okay, and then I just wanted to plug our library research skills module, which is available to you all on Moodle. You should all automatically be logged into that, automatically added. So this is a really great source. It's an online interactive source. You can either kind of work your way through the whole program, or you can just select different things. So for example, if you just wanted some more advice or help on managing your references, or you're looking at literature review, you can go into those sections and it will cover much of what I've covered today and much more. And as I said, there'll be a series of video clips, little interactive tutorials that you can do. And again, it's just a nice way to refresh your memory, check your understanding. So please do go and have a look at that, and we're always happy to take feedback on that in terms of sort of enhancements that we can make or things that might be missing. Okay, and then just finally, really just to remind you how to get in touch. So as I said before, I am the liaison contact in the Library of Psychology, so please do drop me an email if you do have any questions or queries at all. I also do a remote support session, so that's every Wednesday from 11 till 12, and there's a link there to how you can join that. You don't have to book an appointment, so if you've just got a query, if that's convenient for you that time, just join the link, join the meeting online, and we can cover any kind of questions that you might have. Obviously, if that time is not convenient, just email me and we can arrange a Teams meeting outside of that. That's absolutely fine. And then all the sort of main online information you'll need is on our library website, so there's a link there at the bottom. Okay, so I hope the sessions have been useful for you. I wish you all the very best in your course, and again, please do get in touch if you need help. Thanks for listening.